Alrighty folks, the garlic experiments continue here, and I think we might actually find something pretty cool out here in just a second. So one thing that I was kind of wondering about back in the fall here is, what's the best spacing for garlic? And so what I had done with the vast majority of my garden and in past years was just 6-inch spacing. And after I had lined up all of my experiments in the fall, I was still left with about a third of the bed. And so I figured, hey, let's run another experiment. And so what I did with the last portion of my bed is I first measured out 6-inch intervals just as I had with the rest of the bed. But then what I did was I added another hole right in the middle, right in between all of those 6-inch intervals. And so what this is called is off-centered spacing. And what it means is that now the garlic is essentially going to be growing with 3 inches on each of its sides opposed to 6 inches. But what that also means is that we're fitting an extra row in for every 2 rows of the 6-inch spacing. So if the heads end up being a similar space, just by the sheer volume of more cloves in the garden, our harvest and yield could end up being a lot bigger. So what I want to do is harvest out the rest of this bed, and then we're going to have to do a little bit of math to figure it out. All right, so just to first explain the spacing here, what we can see, first one here, 6 inches over, here's the next one, 6 inches up, here's the third one, and then right down the middle, this is our off-centered row that we have planted in here. So let's get to harvesting them up here. Here we go. Oh, that's good. Nice one. Off-centered one. That's a nice one. God. Let's continue along into the home stretch. Another successful year of garlic. Gotta love that. Alrighty, so those grew really well. But the thing is that I don't have like an equal comparison to compare them to, right? Because on the other side of the bed, we had our control group, we had the phosphorus experiment, the big cloves, the small cloves, so a lot of changing variables. So what we need to do is actually find the average garlic head size from that off-centered spacing and then compare it to the average garlic head size from our control group that was just at 6-inch spacing. And so in order to do that, we need to fast forward 14 days to when they're dried so that we can get them onto the scale. Alrighty folks, so it is a couple of weeks later, and as we can see here, the garlic is all dried, cured, and I've also cleaned it up. So to do that, all that I did was cut the neck of the garlic off about 1 to 2 inches above the head, and then I flipped it over and removed all of the roots on them. And so with that, we're all set to begin getting these onto the scale. Now keep in mind, as we do that, I did not grow an equal number of heads for each of these. So what we're really interested in here is the average weight per head for each of the sizing options. And so to get started, let's grab our 6-inch spacing garlic. All right, got that zeroed out. Let's get these babies on. Okay, and so for our 6-inch spacing, we've got 14 heads, and that comes out to a total of 728 grams. And what that means is that the average garlic head size comes out to 52 grams per head. Alrighty, so next up, we've got our 6-inch off-centered spacing. Let's get these babies on here. Alrighty, and so for a 6-inch off-centered spacing, we had 38 heads of garlic, and that comes out to a total of 1,586 grams, which equals an average of 41 grams per head. Okay, so now this is where it starts to get really interesting, so stick with me through this part here. So let's now assume that we are planting a 4-foot by 8-foot raised bed. And if we're going with 6-inch spacing, what that means is that we can do 6 rows going across and 13 cloves lengthwise for a total of 78 cloves planted in that bed. But now when we switch to 6-inch off-centered spacing in the exact same amount of space, a 4-foot by 8-foot raised bed, we can now fit 11 rows into this bed. And that gives us a total of 138 total cloves of garlic that we can be planting. So let's now assume that in a year from now, we get the exact same averages from what we have just harvested. So that means that in our 6-inch spacing bed, we're gonna harvest 78 heads of garlic at an average weight of 52 grams per head for a total of 4,056 grams. But here's where it gets even more cool, is that let's now do the same thing with our off-centered bed. So in a year from now, let's assume that we're going to harvest all 138 heads, but they're going to be a little bit smaller, only 41 grams per head. Well, that then means from the exact same amount of space, we're now getting 5,658 grams of garlic in our harvest. And so what I hope that you take from this video here is that there isn't a right way and a wrong way to garden, but rather just different techniques that are going to yield different results. So if what you're hoping for are really big heads of garlic, then I'd encourage you to probably go with the 6-inch spacing option. But maybe you've got a couple more mouths to feed and you're looking for more volume, then it'd be really wise to go with the 6-inch off-centered spacing, because you're simply going to yield that many more heads of garlic. And so I'd love to hear from each and every one of you what you're planning to do spacing wise down in the comments. Let me know. I'll share my answer as well. Other than that, I hope that this video has been valuable and helpful on the spacing front. If you have any questions, let me know down in the comments as well. Other than that, catch you soon.